Gilbert Gino Villalpando entered adulthood through the working-class realities of San Bernardino. Leaving high school early left him carrying a quiet, heavy shame, the feeling of being measured and dismissed before he ever had the chance to speak. His identity was a field of contradictions, the familiar tenderness of Catholic parish memory weighed against a hidden Sephardic ancestry, all of it filtered through the sharp survival pressures of Chicano life in the 60s and 70s. Gino possessed an immense entrepreneurial imagination and a drive to build something that would last. However, this ambition remained dangerously entangled with raw, unexamined pain. A founder who builds from a place of unresolved trauma risks turning their legacy into a tool for self-validation, eventually extracting a heavy toll from themselves and everyone they lead. Before Gino could store a house for others, he had to discover a mechanism to process and survive the rooms within his own mind. He joined the Navy. Aboard the USS Saratoga, he resisted the label of failure by carrying a simple notebook into the ship's regimented environment. This notebook became a wilderness school. He filled the pages with unfamiliar words, overheard fragments of conversation, and private prayers, creating a space for an education that the official world had closed off. These early entries were raw and unedited, the desperate attempts of a young man trying to write himself into a recognizable identity while surrounded by the discipline of the sea. This private writing habit gradually transformed into a mirror, pulling his character into the light of radical self-accountability. Writing gave a tangible form to internal pressure. On the page, Gino could name his poverty and family silences, stripping them of their power by turning them into language rather than public performances. This diagram illustrates the core psychological mechanic Gino developed, the mandatory pause. The physical act of writing intercepts a raw emotional stimulus, preventing an immediate reaction and allowing for a more deliberate, considered action. He used this pause for self-interrogation. The page forced him to ask what his anger was trying to protect, or what his insecurity was demanding from those around him. In one entry, he drafted a beautifully eloquent paragraph about his own struggle. After reading it over, he crossed the entire thing out. He recognized that the beauty of the prose was merely a mask for his vanity and a desire for applause. He realized that gifted language could serve as a disguise. A founder could speak movingly about repentance, while using that very eloquence to avoid the harder work of repair. True leadership formation arrived through the quiet, unglamorous labor of crossing out his own ego. The journal became a workshop where he wrestled with conflicting spiritual influences. He had to reconcile Gabriela's demand for Sephardic reverence with Veronica's insistence on Catholic mercy. Writing out his doubts prevented him from claiming his faith as a trophy or using his inherited wounds as an excuse for spiritual revenge. This solitary practice of repetition and correction led Gino to codify 3 load-bearing rules for ethical storytelling: consent, context, and care. Consent ensures that stories are never stolen for the sake of art. Context requires that history remain connected to its origins. And care mandates that the well-being of living people must always outweigh the demands of a production schedule. Gino's corporate standards grew directly from the solitary hours he spent correcting his own motives on the page. The eventual publication of Gino's journal series resonated with readers because it captured the messy, honest process of a man under construction rather than a manufactured image of success. He translated the internal habits of his notebook, the interrogation of motives, and the rigorous documentation of intent into the formal operating systems of his studio, Casa Nova. Believing that a founder must be corrected before he can be trusted, Gino designed Casa Nova to decentralize authority. He ensured he was never the sole interpreter of truth within the house. These systems prioritized the protection of the subjects over the speed of production. If care required it, the studio would leave a powerful scene unwritten, refusing to let artistic beauty outrun moral responsibility. Accountability is the daily practice of revising your own soul. You can never build a safe house for others until you have rigorously audited the rooms within yourself.